Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of your Dairy Checkoff podcast. I'm Jenni Tilton-Flood, a dairy farmer from Maine's dairy capital of Clinton, Maine, and I will be your host for today's discussion, taking a deeper look at sales and consumers' consumption of dairy. Today, we'll be talking to Paul Ziemnisky, EVP of Global Innovation Partnerships, and Madlyn Daley, SVP of Strategic Insights and Evaluation at Dairy Management Incorporated. We know them as DMI, and they're going to discuss how consumers are purchasing and consuming their dairy. Can you just tell us a little bit about what it is you do at DMI? What do you roll up your sleeves and dig into? Paul, you first, and then Madlyn.
Hi, everybody. Paul Ziemnisky. I lead what we call the innovation pillar. And that encompasses nutrition science and all the functional research for the body to the product science and technologies like ultrafiltration, then bringing in the growth platforms and partnerships, the people we work with on the outside, whether it's fluid milk revitalization to the power partnerships at Domino's, McDonald's, the newly added Raising Cane's, through finally what we call strategic intelligence, how we bring the outside world back into the dairy industry, what's happening with consumers, the category, science, technology, and use that to fuel our insights for the organization.
Hi, and I'm Madlyn Daley. I'm in what we call our strategic intelligence group here at DMI. And my particular role is to understand kind of where consumers are at with regards to their mindset towards the dairy industry. So understanding, how they're thinking, what products they're interacting with, and then how does that ladder up to sales of the product. So I am constantly monitoring what's happening in the retail channel, for example, what's happening in food service, just understanding those big overall trends and notably sales increases.
Great. Thank you so much for bringing your experience and expertise to this conversation. I know that both of you bring a real understanding and convey the realistic facts to us all the time. So I guess as a farmer funder, when I walk into the grocery store, I go to the market or wherever I am doing my purchasing, what is it that I can be proud of? What is it that should be exciting me in the?
I could put the frame on it. When you think about the category itself, 230 billion pounds, we've grown 64 billion pounds of production in the last 20 years. That's about almost 2% growth. The farmers are amazing. We produce about 3 billion pounds more of milk a year, and we find new amazing ways to grow that 3 billion in the minds of consumers, both domestically and internationally. When you look at the last 5 years, that production that we've grown has been split 50% consumed domestically, and that additional poundage has been consumed 50% internationally. And so we work with our peers at USDAC and the industry to really focus growth, I'll call it abroad and domestically. So domestically, you've had amazing success across different channels, from food service to retail to healthcare, and internationally the same thing. We've really, from an international perspective, taken some of the insights we've done here domestically, and I'll pick a category like pizza, where, you look at the food service channel, about 35% of the cheese, goes through that pizza segment. And that's why we focus to make sure that pizza segment's healthy, because it takes so much dairy. But we've taken the knowledge working with domestic partners and have successfully then taken that volume and exported it internationally with and through those domestic players like Pizza Hut, Domino's, into new places like Japan, Southeast Asia. Now we're opening up the Middle East too. So I think this combination of taking learning domestically and moving volume internationally, and that's the farmers who are pushing that and working with these power players to unlock new growth market. When you think about 330 million people in the U.S., you got billions just in Southeast Asia. So that's why it's so critical to, the farmers should be proud of unlocking those new markets for dairy growth.
Great. Yeah, and I would just kind of piggyback onto that and say that as we look at various places where dairy can be purchased and consumed, we see a very strong retail market. If we think about overall the entire grocery store, the aisle in which dairy sits, the refrigerated part of dairy, is the largest aisle in the entire store. And dairy is actually larger than looking at fresh meats or fruits or vegetables, carbonated soft drinks. It's the largest of all of those. And also, as you think about the growth that we've seen over the last couple of years, dairy has excelled in that respect as well and is posting some of the largest gains that we've seen. And then similarly, if we think about, the food service channel, certainly it's been challenged a lot over the COVID period of time as many restaurants were closed down. We do see recovery that's occurring, and certainly some of the markets in which we play, and I would say that cheese is a huge player when it comes to food service, with more than half of its volume moving through that channel. We're seeing that the pizza industry is coming back. We're seeing many of the players that we have been involved with helping to kind of push forth that growth within that marketplace.
That's great. And I really like and appreciate the way, Paul, that when you were talking about those good things, you also dovetailed in the work that's going on at DMI to advance all of these positive aspects. So Madlyn, I'll put you on the spot here. When you look at that challenge to, institutional feeding and congregational feeding and restaurants and such, what are some of the things, and either one of you can answer this, what are some of the things that Checkoff is doing to make sure that we get back to where we are, or we find a way to get back to those levels to ensure that we're out there and we're back in the game?
Well, I think one part of it is that we're playing with the big players, I guess I would say, in the industry to make change. So if you think about some of the food service partners over the years that we've partnered with, certainly McDonald's and Domino's are just leaders in their particular areas. And so by working with some of the largest areas of food service and also those that we'll be working on in the future, we're helping to kind of set the stage, and others kind of follow that lead as well. And so if you can kind of create innovation and growth within the big players, you'll find the smaller ones will look for those growth pockets and kind of follow through.
Great, thanks. And I love that you mentioned those two foundational partners of McDonald's and Domino's. And a lot of times farmers think, well, what else? What else? And Paul, you did refer to Raising Cane's. We're talking about putting cheese where cheese wasn't before. We're putting more dairy. There's an entire chain that is expanding a menu that is known for being non-expanded. So, I think that's really amazing work. And I think that speaks to where we are trying to meet consumers where they are. We're trying to meet the partners where they are, and we're making sure that they're doing the heavy lifting, right? And that's something that we don't think of. We think that we're the ones doing that heavy lifting. We do enough heavy lifting on the farm, on getting the milk to market and making sure it's fresh and high quality. These partners are the ones who are putting in the extra time and effort and money, correct?
Oh, for sure. Really what we try to do is all the food service players or channel players we work with, they may not think about the dairy category first like we do. And so we look at it, how do we make sure we bring the dairy lens, an incremental dairy lens, so that their efforts, and so we do a lot of the upfront work for them. We'll look at new concept territories. So they may be incentive, like a McDonald's may be focusing on trying to grow their chicken business. We're like, well, how do we bring a dairy lens to the chicken business? Or a great example is Raising Cane's. They're an emerging chicken player. One of the top 2 Gen Z's favorite brands. And they do more dollar sales per restaurant than Domino's, McDonald's, and Taco Bell, and they're growing rapidly. But they have a couple of items, very little dairy. So we're like this company who intends to be bigger than KFC in 2 years. How do we make sure we can get dairy from, whether it's a beverage space or like the cheese with the chicken, or a dairy side? They have no desserts like ice cream. So our job is to try to bring that incremental dairy lens to these players. And so we do a lot of the upfront of proving the opportunity space for them, and whether it's a test or consumer concepts. But then they spend the $100 million in marketing, commercializing it through the system, training their operators how to run it and make it taste great. And so again, our investment's much smaller because we're doing proof of concept and they're doing the commercialization. And so it's usually, we say their investment is usually around 20 to 1 at a minimum ours. Plus we also, as we work with them, create growth targets, even up front. Even for an existing player like McDonald's or Taco Bell, we still always have annual growth targets and try to, is there a way to keep that volume moving incrementally every year, or is it time to walk away? So we have that challenge and that discussions with them every year.
So and I hear a lot that dairy is dead, and I hear that from not just people who don't like dairy, but from people within dairy. We think that it's not going anywhere, but it sounds like that when you approach these partners, you don't have to sell them on dairy. You have to just help them figure out how to make dairy work for them. They know it's a sure thing, correct?
Correct. I mean, one thing I think we're different is we have the lens for the farmer of driving incremental sales. No one else just thinks incremental. You know, a lot of players are amazing quality suppliers, and the industry will tell you we have consistent, great quality supply, but not a lot of people are bringing them growth spaces and growth ideas like we do. So we try to look at what categories we can ignite growth in. I'll give you a great example, Jenny. One right now is creamers. The creamer category is the inverse of milk. Milk's 15 billion, plant-based is 2 billion. So that's 17 billion. The creamers is the opposite, 4 billion plus, and only 140 million are real dairy. The rest is all fake. So thinking incrementally, how do we attack new spaces, attack new categories? How to disrupt, like right now we're working with General Mills. How do we disrupt yogurt? Because you guys think about yogurt, you got Go-Gurt, and then it goes into like some of the adult and flavor. We're looking at new formats of yogurt. And in the short term, we're getting base hits and doubles with General Mills. We've launched Ratio, helping them with keto, bringing the whole milk knowledge of fluid milk into the yogurt with but also making it fun. Bringing emerging cereal with yogurt, with their cereal toppers, trying new things to make it more modern and relevant. I like to tell the farmers we're like a lot of our categories like a Ford F-150, trusted and traditional. But the kids today, they also say, give me a cool Ford Bronco, or they want premium, give me a Raptor, so we have a lot of spaces to grow on the premium side, the experiential side. Think about snacking cheese, right? There's a lot of snack cheese cubes. We were just at Expo West. They're launching wasabi flavored cheese snacks, strawberry flavored cheese snacks. So that's, bringing in fruits and stuff and adding it to it, bringing in nuts to the cheese and adding it. So we're still huge growth opportunities in snacking. In the beverage space, people forget coffee's growing and milk's the number one ingredient in those coffee beverages, right? But you see the Asian teas coming. You see these ready to drink protein beverages continue to grow. So there's a lot of incremental growth spaces at retail, food service, globally, that, and our job for the farmers to help unlock those growth spaces.
So I love that you were talking about opportunities. Madlyn, when we look at the trends of where consumers are reaching, what they want to put in their cart, what they want to put in their body, as farmers, we hear a lot about lab-grown or cellular and dairy-free products. Talk a little bit about the trends there and how they might match up to the real dairy products we're putting on the shelves.
Sure, Jenny. One thing I think that sometimes gets distorted out there in the media is that everyone focuses on plant-based and the tremendous growth that they've had over the last 10 or so years. But what they neglect to look at is how large the dairy industry is in comparison to that plant-based. So, for example, over a 52-week or 1 year period of time, dairy products sold $80 billion worth of dairy, real dairy products, versus only 44 billion, with regards to the plant options. So huge difference in that. And then if you look at how much they've actually delivered in terms of gains, again, much larger. We're at $3.8 billion gain in just 1 year period of time, whereas the plant-based are about $260 million increase. So again, sometimes percentages can be misleading from a consumer perspective. And even within the dairy category, we see many areas of growth. Certainly cheese has been a key driver over the long term and continues to be kind of a shining star. But we also saw during the COVID period of time that butter really stepped up from a consumer perspective, with people, baking more, cooking more. And even though, inflation has kind of hit us and we start to see a little bit of maybe pullback, what we also know is that where we are today is still much higher than where we were before the pandemic even hit. So again, many of those at-home behaviors are still in place. We also see some exciting things happening within yogurts, for example. We see people wanting the yogurt drinks, something they could kind of take with them, a product they view as being healthy, delicious, great taste is a key hallmark. of dairy, I would say. So across many categories, we're seeing some great growth areas.
So I love that both of you mentioned yogurt. I love yogurt, but I just recently saw a TikTok or a reel, and it was of like the amazement of someone who was in France in one of their markets, and the yogurt section just went on. It was both sides of the aisle, and they were just, and I'm sitting there thinking, I thought our yogurt section was incredibly large. You know, it had more than 3 items in it, and it's grown so much, over the past few years. So, and I feel that the reason it grows is because there are new products, new formulations, new versions, the drinkables of yogurts, as you mentioned. So I guess I'm wondering, what is it that Checkoff is doing to take advantage of the opportunities that some of these new products, is it producing new products? Is it safeguarding the products that are already there? How is Checkoff working to make sure that, farmers can benefit from these opportunities?
One, I think we start with the science, Jenny, and we continue to do more science, improve the functional benefits of dairy in these spaces, gut health. We're doing health and wellness landscape research right now, and looking at the top consumer needs and benefits, and then identifying how do we make sure we have the modern claims to attack those needs and benefits. So emerging areas, whether it's bone science, digestive health, to performance. So one is doing the science, proving the science, and that's why we brought in new collaborations like Mayo Clinic to have that trusted science edge. But then also saying, how do we create new technologies and products to commercialize it and unlock new growth spaces? So we're in the process of looking at new technologies where we can capture, whether it's the whole milk product or some of the functional bioactives of milk, in a new modern way that lets us have new claims and new products, whether it's lactoferrin, and lactoferrin has functional benefits like immunity. But you'd have to have 21 glasses of milk to get those functional benefits. Well, if we can do things differently where you can get that in the glass and call it immunity milk, that's what we mean by bringing the combination of technology and science to life. And then pushing it downstream, we're looking at where are these opportunity growth spaces, just like you said. We just brought in General Mills as a partner a couple of years ago, because one of the things we're seeing is this consumer opportunity in the space of digestive health, immunity, and also we're even looking ahead, food as medicine's coming. Drugs can only do so much. When you get into that mitochondria, food can help in a lot of these things, like diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And so when you look at the cultured products, the fermented products, a lot of that from dairy, we're just we believe we're at the tip of the iceberg of bringing a lot more functional foods to market. And we want to be at the front and center to inform the industry where the spaces are, help enable it with the science, help enable it with some of this emerging technology using the farmer-funded dairy research centers, right? We have 140 experts tied to dairy research and extended 22 total facilities that work across this space that help on the discovery of the benefits all the way to the technology. So working across the industry with the producers of what our role is, and we're trying to, be that forefront of science.
And I would just add to that, as Paul talks about what's going on in the future, what are those future opportunities? There's also a track record of what's happened already in building on some of the past, right? We have high protein products in the market that are, skyrocketing in terms of sales. We acknowledge that consumers are looking for lower sugar. And so you see lower sugar yogurts emerging on the market, or lower sugar flavored milks, and those are doing quite well. You also see, other areas such as consumers' interest perhaps in some enhanced benefits. Maybe they're looking for more probiotics in their products, or looking for more omega, et cetera. So again, I think the dairy industry has built on some of that in the past. And, the key will be to keep up with where consumer benefits are facing towards the future.
And am I correct in saying that in a lot of these scientific aspects and benefits that real dairy can offer, that some of the competition can't really compete in those spaces right now, correct?
Oh, correct. From when you look at plant-based, from performance, the nutritional benefit, the body of science, nothing. So we're definitely, and then that's what we also, work with our communications team to help educate the healthcare professionals, and we can do so much. We also have outside influencers and bringing in the medical profession, whether it's the National Medical Association, who is tied to African Americans and endorsing and actually educating about the value of dairy, to, like I said, new relationships with Mayo Clinic to say, how can they, with their powerful voice, the number one trusted brand of physicians and consumers, to use them to be that voice of the science for us. And then, and as we look at these opportunity spaces, making sure that we also work across industry one of the things we're talking about is making sure we say the same thing consistently. You have so many companies using dairy, and the more simple of the benefits and functional things, getting us to work together more is one of the things we're talking about in the future. Is how do we push out the messaging and the functional benefits in a new modern way?
Great. And I will say that I'm so appreciative of the fact that our Checkoff and our farmer funded work is now working and collaborating with the populations we seek to find, and working with the National Medical Association, because we have to understand that while dairy is a wonderful, sustainable nutrition food, it is not digestible and it's not a acceptable diet for many people, but we have the ability to make sure that they can enjoy it, and they can be our consumers, and they can be our happy, healthy consumers. And I'm so glad to have that. And we don't have much time left, but I do want to ask, we talked about sales a little bit, but just, as a farmer from the oldest milk shed in the country, I guess, here in New England, I have to ask, how is fluid milk doing? Should we be worried about it? And how is Checkoff making sure that we're spending money from our milk checks and our hard-earned dollars to ensure that we are still viable and sustainable here in our corner of the world?
Madlyn, you want to start, and I'll finish?
Yeah, so it is true that we've been seeing a decline over many decades in terms of fluid milk consumption in this country. We also know that, we got hit with some really, terrible events over the last several years. First, COVID hit us. That maybe saw a little bit of an uptick in terms of fluid milk sales. But then certainly, people were on the move again, and then inflation hit us hard, right? So we do see an impact from a consumer perspective. What I would tell you is that currently the rate of decline that we're experiencing is not that different than what we've had endured kind of over the long historical period of time. But it is down. As we look within that fluid milk market, we do see some growth spaces, though. We see whole milk has come back, after many, many, many decades of decline. Now people have permission to kind of enjoy those whole fat products again. So we're seeing nice increases there. We're also seeing really good growth in kind of that lactose-free area. Jenni, you mentioned a little bit earlier, the importance of really trying to make sure we connect with all types of people. And certainly those with lactose intolerance are now able to kind of enjoy that product, and we're seeing good growth there as well. So again, the entire category is down, but we're finding some areas that we can build on for the future. We need more of those areas, I guess I would say.
Yeah, and to build off, when you look at the category where there's been investment, there's growth. Value added is milk, high protein, low sugar, lactose free. Now we've launched, recently you see probiotic, right? So functional benefits that consumers are looking for, and guess what? They're paying $2 more per gallon than plant-based. You look at where we've invested in science, like the whole fat as a percent of growth of the category has moved up 12 percentage points the last decade, where flavor has grown over the last 5 years. So where there's investment in brands, and that's what's typical in any category. I grew up in pizza. If you didn't invest in new product every year, guess what happened? Your competitors did. And what happened was milk was controlled by players who didn't invest every year, didn't think about the consumer and put the consumers first. Now you have new players coming into the category, acting like a branded category again, and investing in the future. The only thing that's declining, if you look at the last 5 years, is that conventional low-fat milk, right? And that's been controlled majority by private label, the retailers. And I would bet you ask any farmer, you don't want to give your business over to a retailer, right? So we're taking the business back and investing into the future. And again, it goes back to better packaging, better science, better messaging. And so we're working with Milk Pep and the processors, if you've seen over the last 12 months, where they've got more aggressive in their marketing campaign around milk hydrate. They call it their parade of claims. Milk hydrates better than water, the power of protein, to retake that health and wellness piece that we need to do with that consumer. That's one of the phases. Other one, again, is we're working with a lot of players in the industry, looking at new packaging, graphics, and structure, looking at bringing like more functional, like we said, the probiotics and even further benefits of whether it's immunity, calming, stress spaces that that consumers. And then also we've seen quality improvement in the industry as well. So players are investing back in the category, and that's what it's going to take to keep it relevant in that. And so we're still in 92% of household, despite probably about 20,000 new beverage products a year. I always encourage the farmers to go, next time they go to the store, don't walk the milk section, walk the beverage section. And the billions of dollars. If you go back to coffee 25 years ago, coffee was it was Maxwell House and Folgers. Try to find that now. And guess what that sold for on a price per ounce? And look at what they're selling coffee for on a price per ounce. And then go to the ready to drink coffee section. You got La Colombe. That sells for 40. Last time I looked, it's $40 a gallon in that little glass. So I have people tell me we can't sell milk for $3.88 a gallon. I go, they're buying a coffee and with milk for 40. So again, there's a premiumization is coming to the category as consumers look for that experience and in the category. So I think I'm a big believer that we're just getting started in the relevancy of milk and consumers coming back to whole foods. And we're seeing that plant-based over the last 12 months is down in volume 2.6%. So, and they're starting to go at each other. They're talking about who's got a cleaner label because, everybody knows that they've got a lot of stabilizers and additives to try to make up for the stuff that they can't deliver in reality. So, I think there's a future with milk, and we're just getting started.
Okay. I am going to throw you a curveball, and you don't know this is coming, but I think you all can rise to the challenge. I want you to give me 3 words to describe how you want farmers to feel after this conversation, or what you want them to take away from this conversation. So 3 words. Paul, you go first, and then you, Madlyn, will have the last 3 words.
First would be, as I think through the category in our future, is fun. Again, the first thing consumer buys product for taste. So fun. Number 2, functional. I think that when we look at the food as medicine and all that is coming, and the third is value, not just volume. So fun, functional, and value.
Thank you. And Madlyn.
I would say proud of the accomplishments of the industry so far, long term. I'd say positive, as you look to the future, there's a lot of untapped markets out there. I think pointing just to the European market, certainly we're still in our infancy in some areas like yogurt and cheese as well. And then I would say growth. See it as something that's going to continue to grow.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, folks. This has been really amazing. I feel good. And, thank you to all you do. I really appreciate all the work you guys put into everything. Thank you, Madlyn and Paul, for this discussion today. It's been interesting to hear about consumer purchasing and consumption trends as it pertains to dairy. And in closing, we just want to say thank you for joining us today. If you want to hear more about various issues affecting the dairy community, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. Or you can check out our website, dairycheckoffpodcast.com, for future episodes. Until next time, have a great day.